Good morning, Talita. Today I'm going to read And to Think That We Thought We'd Never Be Friends. This is a little bit inspired for Multicultural Week, and it starts with some siblings having a little bit of typical sibling rivalry and maybe some neighbors noticing a noisy difference, and rather than fighting it out, they decided to join together. And sometimes with traditions, things might seem different, but instead of fighting, maybe just join in. Dedicated for Monroe, Dorothy, and Theo, thrice blessed, and with homage to Dr. Seuss, whose And to Think That I Saw It on Mulberry Street provided both cadence and inspiration. And illustrator dedicates this to the Stevensons' good friends. You know, cadence is the way a story flows, and it's important to have good cadence, so I appreciate the author noting that. One day we were playing outside in our yard when my brother got mad and he pushed me so hard that I pushed him right back with all of my might, as quick as a wink. We were having a fight. We thwacked and we whacked and we walloped away, and we still might be fighting to this very day, pinching and punching my brother and I, if only our sister had not happened by. She was sipping some soda pop out of a cup, and she said she would share if we would make up. And since we were thirsty and tired and sore, we each took a drink, and we ended our war. It's funny how quickly an argument ends, and to think we thought that we'd never be friends. Sometimes this happens with my own children. They are fighting about something, and then there's a little distraction, and they're playing again. That night after supper, we turned on TV. We couldn't agree on what show we should see. I wanted one and my sister another, and both of us hated the choice of our brother. And we probably all would be arguing yet if our dad hadn't come in and turned off the set. So we put on pajamas, curled up in his bed, and he read us a wonderful story instead. It's funny how quickly an argument ends, and to think we thought we'd never be friends. I bet that happens in your house too, fighting over what TV show to watch or movie to watch together. And then the parents solve that problem and just turn it off. But then it's great that the dad engaged by reading a story. A day or two later, it wasn't much more, a great big new family moved in right next door. How many were in it, we couldn't quite tell, but they each played an instrument. Not very well. One played a tuba and one a bassoon. They practiced all morning and all afternoon. They practiced all evening and all through the night. And they kept us from sleeping. Oh, that wasn't quite right. So we got out of bed with a hippity hop and we marched off together to beg them to stop. But when we arrived there, they asked us to play. And they did it so nicely that what could we say? I took a whistle, my sister a flute, and my brother a trumpet that gave a loud toot. My dad took a bugle, my mother a drum, and we all forgot totally why we had come. It's funny how quickly an argument ends, and to think we thought we'd never be friends. Then all of a sudden we heard a loud blare. A siren came wailing from out of thin air. A police car pulled over. Out jumped the police, and they told us that we were disturbing the peace. And they said if we didn't stop playing that minute, they'd take us to jail and put all of us in it. My brother got red and my sister grew pale, and everyone trembled about going to jail. Boo. But my mother explained that the noise we had made was because we were practicing for a parade, and she said that the siren had sounded so grand that she hoped they would ride at the head of our band. It's funny how quickly an argument ends. Now all of the police had turned into our friends. We marched down the street and each person we passed loudly complained at our ear-splitting blast. They begged us to deaden our deafening din until we invited them all to join in. We offered them boxes and kettles and spoons, and once they were playing, they all changed their tunes. They were all so pleased by the music we made that they became part of our splendid parade. More and more people stepped right into place. More and more people kept right with our pace, strutting and striding and stamping their feet, marching in time to the drum's steady beat. Friends who had squabbled and even stopped talking settled their differences once they were walking, smiled at each other and marched hand in hand, keeping the beat of a wonderful band. And then we could hardly believe what we saw. Dog and cat enemies marched paw in paw. And when our procession arrived at the zoo, lions and tigers joined in with us too. And to think that we thought they could never be friends. Our music was magic, a magnet to all. As to Pied Piper, they came at its call. And as we kept marching and tooting and drumming, the people kept coming and coming and coming. Hundreds and thousands came running to find us. Thousands and millions fell in right behind us. What a cacophony, what a commotion. Then all of a sudden we got to the ocean. We came to the place where the whole country ends with hundreds and thousands and millions of friends. Oh, what could we do now? We started to fret. We couldn't keep marching without getting wet. Then just as we all began turning around, we heard a most odd and unusual sound. It wasn't a moan, it wasn't a cry, it wasn't a groan, and it wasn't a sigh. It was more like a hum humming high up the scale, a whisper, a whistle, a whimper, a wail. A whale? No, a whale. 100 or more, and all of them swimming straight into the shore, singing their whale songs and grinning with glee. So we jumped on their backs and sailed straight out to sea. Sharks swam around us while baring their teeth. Stingrays kept rising from underneath. But somehow the songs and the music we played convinced them to join in our ocean parade. For it's music, it's magic, it soothes and it mends. And to think we thought we'd never be friends. We crossed the wide ocean and washed up the land where people kept hearing the sound of our band. And even the ones who first came to protest soon were parading along with the rest. And it's hard to believe, but I swear it is true. By the time we were finished and finally through, and we'd all gotten back to the place we first played, the whole world was marching in one big parade. And before we disbanded and each went our way, we voted to march every year on that day, to march side by side with the friends we had made and the friends we'd made up in this one big parade. And from that day to this is just what we do, with the police siren blaring and horns tooting too, with our pots and our pans and our trumpets and drums, and everyone comes. And this is our cheer every year when it ends. Forever and ever, we'll always be friends. And that is the story of how two little siblings that started out fighting and got upset with their neighbors who were making noise decided to come together and make a giant, big musical parade and be together. It makes me think of how important it is for us to, instead of fight over our differences, find ways to celebrate them. And, oh, Mr. Richard's coming in. And it makes me think of the Olympics when all the countries get to come together and parade. It made me think of that too. Thanks for listening.